Okay, I'm with John Jakovich. It's May 10th, 2024. We're getting ready to read his 800-plus page book, Their Mother's Son. But John has is on his lap right now a book of all types of aircrafts from World War II. And almost all of them are very familiar to John Jakovich. So I'm just going to sit back and watch Mr. Jakovich look at the planes that fought during World War II.
Mr. Jakovich.
What did you say, Mr. Jakovich?
Mr. Jakovich.
Now, didn't John fly B-17s in the Army Air Corps when you first got into the Army, John?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
Well, I was only there about a year.
About a year?
Landed, take off, landed, take off, landed, take off.
And what was the instructor's number one thing that they told you about the plane?
Huh?
What was the number one thing the instructor told you about the plane?
The 17?
Yeah.
It was a war horse.
Yeah, but did he tell you just to make sure you get it on the ground?
Yeah.
But how exactly did he say it?
What?
Your instructor said make sure it comes back on the ground.
He said, when you come back, make sure you come back.
See,
he said, bring it back, bring it back.
Not only is Mr. Jakovich a well-decorated World War II soldier, he's also a part-time comedian.
Part-time comedian.
Part-time comedian. He's always got a quick comeback. A quick comeback. Are you enjoying that book, Mr. Jakovich?
Mr. Jakovich. Thunderbolt.
All right, I'll just sit back and listen.
Well, they park these planes anywhere, huh?
I don't ever remember seeing one.
You keep this one live, Jim.
Time and energy to make checkerboard out of it.
Yeah.
Did you like flying the B-17, John?
Huh?
Did you like flying the plane?
What?
Did you like flying?
I didn't fly that much. Come on. Number.
Just let it roll.
Yeah. There's a truck plowing through the snow with that stupid thing on the back.
What was that on the back?
The plane.
No kidding.
Mosquito.
Take care, Claire.
See you
All
later,
right.
Claire.
Be careful. Watch out for the wires. Bye, Claire.
Bye, Clara.
She's saying goodbye to you.
Nazi.
Good night, Claire.
Hellcat.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
You think any of those planes are still flying today?
Huh?
Do you think any of those planes are still flying today?
Nah, there was a stupid graveyard. California Cutie.
Have you heard of that one before?
Huh. Yeah. Your voice stalled.
That's small print. You don't need glasses?
What?
That's very tiny print. You don't need glasses?
Who?
That is very tiny print. You don't need to use these glasses?
No.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Patterson Field. I remember when they were flying those Bell aircraft Cobras over in Packer Road.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was a big,
Huh?
that was a big building operation.
Yeah. Wow.
Did you enjoy the book?
Oh, yeah. A lot of good pictures.
Did it bring back a lot of good memories?
Yeah.
Good. Well, you're looking chipper today. You ready for me to start reading your book?
Okay. 4209295.
I love it. I love it. Here we go. I'm picking up from yesterday. Picking up from yesterday.
What chapter? For 14, huh?
Yeah, we're at Catacombs.
Let me just stop it and put it.
Oh, it's compared.
Okay, we'll put it.
We're at Catacombs Au Revoir.
What?
We're at Catacombs Au Revoir.
Aurevoir.
Au
That
revoir.
town, that's the city?
That's saying goodbye in French. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir.
Okay.
Au revoir.
Okay, I'm going to continue reading from yesterday. The thought of Renee entering religious persuasion left me in awe and stupefied. Now, not that she was incapable of becoming an outstanding nun, but a woman of her beauty and charm did not fit my picture of someone resolved in a monastery life. She was too full of life. Let it go.
Who's this?
Renee, becoming a nun.
Oh,
Renee,
Renee.
becoming life.
Yeah.
She was too full of life and independence of thought to be relegated to a strict discipline in the monastery. I was well aware that she possessed a great amount of selflessness as a well-being and self-composed, which bordered almost on self-denial. We would drive a person to such an extent that she would give up all her earthly belongings and much more to lead the life of loneliness and self-denial. Especially a person such as Renee, who had boundless and productive life ahead of her. It would be interesting as well as enlightening to see what extent she would confide in me. There was not much going on at the hospital outside a review of our individual cases and some paperwork, training films, and a bit of calisthenics. Most of the time, We were free to go on pass a little after 1200 hours. They strictly held to that policy. Most of the patients knew they'd be returning to active duty shortly, so they were living it up, going to Paris and seeing how much trouble they could get into. I did not have the motivation or inclination and as a consequence, I pretty well kept to myself. I suppose there are some people I can feel comfortable with and go on a pass with and walk around town and see the sights, having something to eat and finally return to the hospital. I much preferred to meet Renee each day and made it each day and be in her company. For the next 2 weeks, I saw Renee each day and got to know her fairly well. Most of my questions about her were answered or resolved in some fashion, perceive and grasp her motivation for doing so. I knew full well that I would never dispel her resoluteness. I would meet her at home occasionally, but most of the time we met at the metro station in Paris and would take off from there. Did Renee have a car?
Yeah.
Oh, she did? Okay.
What kind of car was it?
Plymouth, I guess.
Okay.
We would ride the metro to the Champ de Mars station and spend an afternoon at the Eiffel Tower. We would climb the 1,069-foot tower to the top. The elevators were not working, and they gazed at the magnificent view from the vantage point, where whole panorama of the sign below unfolded before us. It was an inspirational sight to behold. We also got tremendous impression of the complex along the sign that housed 4 museums, a theater, and a concert hall. I would put my arm about her and she would be embarrassed because her lovely hair was blowing about by the wind of a top tower. She would be constantly pushing away from her face, and I would steal a kiss to add to her frustration. It was cold and windy day outside, and we just decided to seek shelter on the second level, which had a restaurant and lounge rooms overlooking the sign. Renee would order something I always liked when she spoke her native tongue. She would speak rapidly and would enunciate her words distinctly and with much aplomb. She ordered a seafood platter with French fries and a carafe of wine. How was a seafood platter in France?
Seafood?
Yeah, was that a good dish in Paris?
Oh,
Seafood?
yeah.
Okay. And what river did they get it from? Once again, I complimented on her selection. She would smile, smooth her hair, or adjust her sitting position, anything to negate my complimenting her. It was one of her little idiosyncrasies that I got to admire and look forward to. Renee asked about my experiences in the hospital, and I guess I reacted the same way she would. I would shrug them off as being inconsequential and state that many soldiers a great deal worse off than I. She triggered a sensitive spot, and I started to talk about Fink and Lape and my great remorse at losing them, along with many more I felt responsible for. She was sympathetic and sincerely became attentive to what I was saying about them. She had a way of drawing me out that was more therapeutic. I felt that I would have gotten more depth about Fink and Lape, but I believe that she sensed that it was having a depressing effect on me and did not pursue it further. I noticed that I met her at the metro station and she stood at the automatic ticket barrier waiting for me. And then she was wearing a slick, tight skirt with high heels. She also had on a rather tight-fitting wool sweater jacket, accented her attractive figure. I remarked about her appearance, how great she looked, and she was pleased but said nothing. My first reaction was she wanted to de-emphasize the fact that she had been a novice at the monastery and did not want to interfere with the short time we had left. That she had related her religious experience to me a great deal. I did not believe Renee would have divulged her inner conscience unless she felt comfortable with that particular person. I knew the feeling very well, and it was one of my many traits we had in common. Contrary to my own opinion, Renee was going through a difficult period of adjustment, and I realized rather late I entered into her thoughts as she strived of somewhat equilibrium and stability. She was attempting to be truthful and forthcoming with me, and I felt I should do the same toward her. Even so, I felt I would not relate to her full extent of my feelings toward her, since I believed she would re-enter the religious order, and I did not want to influence her decision. Even so, I was pleased and thrilled when she came up to me, kissed me, and took my arm when we left the station. Perhaps she was pleading for my assistance in aiding in her decision, and I should have recognized it as such. She may have been looking toward me as her arbiter who would intercede in her decision-making, and my own indecisions hindered our relationship. As for not relating my true feelings towards her and not influencing her decision, it was a complete avoidance and retreat to my evasive self. I could not make a mature, judgmental decision on the person I truly loved, and instead clouded it with pseudo-jargon deceiving both of us. In essence, I knew I should have pursued Renee forthrightly with due diligence, stated my true feeling towards her, and made it known that I wanted to make life with her, come what may. So, I'm just trying to think here. Let's say, for example, your biggest problem was your mother bringing home another person. How do you think your mother would have accepted Renee?
Renee?
How do you think your mother would have accepted
It'll
Renee?
take her a while, but she'll get adjusted, yeah.
She would have accepted her?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to be sure of that.
I think I still heard that cook.
Okay. I wanted to make a life with her and come what may. When I had approached, I believe Renee would become a respected painter and perhaps a happy housewife with a loving husband and several darling children. Instead, the way it finally evolved, she went off to French Guiana and sacrificed her life for an ennobled cause. Why do you call it an ennobled cause?
What kind?
Ennobled cause. Ennobled. It wasn't a noble cause. She sacrificed her life. Why would you say that?
Why she said that?
I'll read it again. Instead, Renee, the way it finally evolved, she went off to French Guiana and sacrificed her life for not a noble cause. What was her cause there? What was she doing?
Well, she wanted to be a nun, but she got hooked up with the resistance, and they wouldn't take her after a while.
I see. So what did she do in the French Guiana?
Missionary.
And then how did she get killed?
Well, they thought she was a spy and they killed her.
So that's what happened to Renee. Enough of the digressing. As I talk more about Fink and others, recounting my experiences, Renee listened, fingering her glass of wine. I told her how we had met in Breckenridge at our training together and finally going overseas. She would take a sip of her wine, fold her arms before her on the table, and become fully absorbed in what I was relating to her. When I talked of Fink's death and how badly it affected me, I could sense a great swelling of compassion and sympathy in her face and eyes. She took hold of my hand and held it firmly as I told her about Leip and the other members of the squad, how I felt indirectly responsible for their tragic deaths. She let go of my hand, raised her head, and repeated several times, "Non, non. Non, non. You must not think it's not your fault." She pleaded with me. Her eyes were moist and it touched me deeply that she cared enough to have such a reaction. "I'm sorry I upset you," I murmured, and took her hand in mine. She smiled, brushing a tear from her eyelash. As I looked at her struggling to regain her composure, I knew within me this would be the person I could start a life with. Also, I knew with just as much conviction it would never come to pass. What was tearing us apart? My indecisiveness and immature nature, or Renee's ambiguity and maturity? We both had our crosses to bear. I had my mother, and Renee had her religion. That's something. You had your mother, and Renee had her religion. Wow. Neither
Pretty
one
close,
of us.
pretty close.
Yeah, you had your mother, and Renee's cross was her religion.
Religion, huh?
Religion. Speaking of religion, were you born a Roman Catholic?
Yeah.
And speaking of religion, were you an altar boy?
For a while, yeah.
Did your mother have you become an altar boy?
No, Stevie was the older boy.
But you were an altar boy also?
Yeah, yeah.
And what church were you an altar boy at?
Holy Rosary.
And
Holy Rosary,
hi,
St.
Claire.
Stan.
We're up here, Claire.
And St. Stan.
She's trying to find her way up. We're up here, Claire. Said Holy Rosary and St. Stanislaus.
Yeah.
And what was your experience of being an altar? We're up here, Claire. What was your experience of becoming an altar boy?
Well, you had to learn all that Latin.
Oh, that mass was totally in Latin back in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you study any of the Latin?
Huh?
Did you study Latin
In school?
for being an altar boy? Did you?
Yeah, but the sisters were teaching us.
I see. Did you ever pick up on it?
Huh?
Did you pick up on the Latin? On the Latin for the mass?